And then you have the other side of it where if they make a mistake, perhaps we end up discarding that blood product because we won't take any chances,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And from a very early age, my mom was a blood user. She almost died having my brother, and then again with my sister, and she used blood 2 times. And I used to sit with my parents when they were donating blood, and I got the idea from a very early age of how important this is.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm Priyanka Patel. I'm the Innovation Manager at Kenya Red Cross Society. And let's have you introduce.
Sure, I'm Mike Mawdsley. Work for the American Red Cross as the Senior Director of Digital Solutions in our innovation team.
Thank you. So tell us, what is Digital Solutions?
So for the American Red Cross, Digital Solutions is really about approaching problems that we can find throughout our organization and seeing if there's a digital lens where we might be able to help with a solution. So it might be building a custom application, or it might be integrating some kind of data science model to help with using our large data sets to give predictive information or guidance on how we do those things. So lots of different forms.
Okay. So when you say digital solutions in the American Red Cross and all of these different forms, are you the person behind doing all the digital work, like, technological expertise and all of that as well?
Fortunately, no, or we would be in trouble. So we have an amazing team.
Okay.
So in our innovation team,
Yeah.
which is a little bit separate from our IT team.
Right.
We have an amazing IT team also, but our innovation team, we have a colleague of mine who manages the really technical parts, the architecture, the development aspect, and really make sure that the tech stack we're choosing is appropriate for the solution we're trying to generate. Another colleague runs a machine learning and data science team. So she has really amazing data scientists, and they do incredible work, explore many, many models, and a lot of those then I'm able to incorporate the outputs of those models into custom applications that we're building.
Okay. So you have been in this space without the expertise of knowing the know-how of technology, because you've got a
Right.
team behind this.
Yeah.
Has this been challenging? Like, because I can only imagine, I'm here also running a department which I'm not an expertise on. I don't do technology, but I have a team that does it. So sometimes I'm always feeling like the old one because they're having to sit down with me and explain to me how to do
Right.
things. And like, Priyanka, this is how it's supposed to be, and this is how it's not supposed to be, and that helps me, make the decisions. But I'm guessing in your case, has that been a challenge, or has then a challenge that has, been either negative or positive in your experience?
So for me personally and professionally, it's been a real positive.
Yeah.
I have those same really patient people in my team who sit down and explain what to them is just basic and understanding, and
Yeah.
they explain it to me really well. I grew up in the Red Cross. I've worked in our biomedical services for many years. I was a volunteer prior to that in both disaster and in biomedical services. And so I have an understanding of the business
Right.
that many of our tech folks don't have because
Right.
they've grown up in the tech sector. And so together, I'm able to kind of help identify problems, brainstorm with them solutions. They help me understand what's possible or push me further than I thought was possible. And then together we can come up with a solution. So I don't have to really know the technical inner workings.
Right.
I write requirements. I write user stories for them because we work in more of an agile framework. And then they will oftentimes tell me, we can go further, or what if we did it this way? And so there'll be some negotiation about how that actually gets done so that ultimately we solve the problem for the end user.
Right. So you help identify the problems, and you
do.
have a team that helps you solve it. Can
Yep.
you tell us a bit of some of the examples? Because you mentioned you were in the biomedical space
Yep.
for a number of years.
Yep.
And I have seen that you're very passionate about that, even in the few interactions that I've had
Yep.
with you previously. So let's hear a little bit about that, and maybe we can pick it on just on that particular question around how did biomedical world or field get, improved and strengthened with the digital solutions that you're currently running within the American Red Cross?
Absolutely. So American Red Cross has a very large biomedical services footprint. We supply about 40% of all the blood that's collected and distributed to patients across the entire United States.
Amazing.
And then lots of competitors do the other 60%. So we're the largest blood
Yeah.
collector, I believe in the world, but certainly in the United States. And so we run more than 400 blood drives a day out of roughly 300 offices all across the
A day.
country a day. Yeah, so 50 to 60,000 blood drives a year. So as you can imagine,
Wow.
there's a lot of room for optimization and efficiency, right?
Right.
It's not about just 5 people going out to collect blood for 6 or 8 hours
Yeah.
and doing their best, but it's about how do we do that 400 or 500 times a day as efficiently as possible. And so what we've tried to do is create a roadmap of how might we create the blood drive of the future? How might we innovate each step of the process, not only to create greater efficiency, to give better information to our staff because they have to make a lot of really critical decisions in the moment.
Right.
And those decisions are a product of considering data from many sources. More sources than the human mind, the human brain can really take.
Yeah.
Plus, you have to have access to all that. And many of our blood drives don't occur at Red Cross facilities. They're at churches and schools and businesses all throughout the community, sometimes many hours away from the office or where these staff live. So what we've tried to do is apply tools, a combination of mobile apps and web apps, lots of data integrations, more than 10 data science models, both predictive and machine learning models, and put those into apps that are really user-friendly. Somebody can maybe tap once or twice on their phone or on a laptop and get the answer, get the recommendation, get the information they need to make the best choice. Because ultimately, when a blood donor walks through the door,
Right.
there's multiple products we could draw from that donor today. We want to pick the best one that the donor will do, because then we have a higher likelihood to meet the patient need in the coming days and weeks. And so that match makes sure that we have a stable blood supply so that everybody gets what they need. But it is a major leap forward for us in the last 5 years of adding these tools and giving staff the information so they have it in real time,
Yeah.
as opposed to maybe printed days ahead, and some of that information changes in the days.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting because you've taken the challenge that exists in not just in a national society but across the country, and there's a solution, a digitized solution and innovation that's helping fix that gap, or at least fill that gap up at least a little bit to temper it up. But then I'm also thinking around the processes that you've influenced, because that's a whole change of process. There's a whole efficiency in the whole entire community that is not just receiving the blood on the other end, but also the community that's donating the blood,
right.
but the community that is facilitating the donations, which is the National Society.
Right.
Did you face any challenges? Like, did anyone stop, or did anyone say this is too complicated? We can't do this. This is just
Sure.
not going to work for us. And how, like, if yes, then how did
Certainly,
you?
I think the usual resistance to change
Yeah.
that I think we all experience. I mean, at this conference this week, I've heard that from everyone I've talked to, right?
Yeah.
And because people are in a habit, they understand what they do really well, they do
Right.
a really good job at it. And, there are some of us who think, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I'm one of those who thinks if it's not broken, there's probably still an opportunity to try to improve it.
Right.
And so we might be going from good to great with a lot of people. Our staff do an amazing job. This was not about fixing a problem per se,
Right.
but it was about eking out on the margins. Where could we deliver a benefit that would give us a net gain to better meet patient needs, or to run more efficient blood drives, or with our platelet transformation project, platelets are such an important product for us, and they expire within 5 days of being collected. So we have a very short time to get that platelet collected, tested, distributed to a hospital, and transfused to a patient
Yeah.
before it expires. So making sure that we have the right number of platelets coming in on Monday assures that on Thursday and Friday we can transfuse those to the right patients there, and we don't have big dips and peaks where we have too many platelets one day or they're expiring and we have too few platelets the next day, because we want to meet that patient demand at a rather steady pace.
Yeah.
So the resistance, I think, that we have had hasn't been about it's too hard, because we aim to really create good user design, so that the interface is easy, but it is something new. It interrupts something that maybe someone's been super practiced at and they've been doing for several years and very successfully.
Yeah.
And so helping them understand the case for change.
Yeah.
Why do I need to use the new tool? Because what I've been doing has been fine, and you've been telling me I've been doing a good job all
Right.
these years. Well, because we can help maybe more patients. If you do it this way, we can help a few more people
patients.
with the work you're doing.
Yeah. But if you speak about the more patients and also just improving our service delivery in that case, and you have different departments and different expertise within the National Society, within the American Red Cross, and challenges that other departments might tend to realize, and then they come forward to your team and say, okay, we need to find a solution for this, and it has to be a digital solution, because of course they've also now started trusting and believing that this is more efficient, it's more sustainable to some extent as well, because that's the future. But how do you identify these digital solutions? Like, what are the processes or some of the simplest steps that you, as a national society, but also you as Michael, for instance, drive and lead on identifying digital solutions?
Sure. So we do get lots of requests from our partners in biomedical services and humanitarian services, even in training services, and we can't do them all. So we have to be selective.
Yeah.
But when we're trying to figure out, is this a problem we can solve, we always assume we can. We're a team that just won't take no for an answer. And so we will explore different ways of solving the problem. It might be different than what that customer comes and asks us for. So someone from biomedical services might come to us and say, well, I have a paper form and I want it digitized. Well, you can use Microsoft Forms to digitize a form. You don't need an elaborate application to do that. But what if we look at your process? So we'll go out and we'll observe the process. And we'll, not just in one location or with one or two people, but we'll observe it in different places to get an understanding of, oh, is it really standard if I go to different offices, or is it actually different? And then we can have a dialogue about, would you like to standardize the process? And if you do, what would that look like? Because as we build an app, one of the things that we really emphasize is there should be sort of one user experience. Not a user experience for a staff person here that's different from the one over here, that's different from the one over here. And so we'll work with them to come up with a standard process so that when that app implements, you almost enforce standardization, because there's a logical flow through the application that guides the staff person. And so our platelet app's a great example where we took a process, they recorded things on a double-sided piece of paper. In the morning, they would print all sorts of reports. They use a calculator. All the staff were carrying a $3 calculator in their pocket, and they would do all this math and trying to figure all these things out. We said, what if we just put all that in an app for you? We integrate all the data automatically behind the scenes. You don't have to pull reports anymore. Push a button and it'll tell you how to program the machine. That saved them about 20 minutes per procedure. So the donor who's laying there ready to get a needle in their arm gets to leave 20 minutes earlier. You just saved the donor 20 minutes and you save the staff 20 minutes. That's pretty amazing. But that was because we didn't necessarily do what was asked, which was digitize a form. We came out and we said, what's the real problem to solve? And there were a number that came to light that ended up involving a machine learning model that we weren't even expecting building initially. But that one has increased the platelets that we can collect and distribute to patients from the same donors. So a donor comes in and they might donate 1 or 2 or 3 platelets in a donation. Well, if we can get closer to 2 or 3 per donor, where it makes sense and it's safe for everybody, we actually, I can give 2 every time I donate, and it ensures that we have more inventory, more platelet inventory available for our patients. So it's a lot of back and forth and a lot of iteration, and then we'll put concepts in front of the staff. Sometimes we'll build an MVP or even a few features, just enough to show them and then get feedback, and they'll tell us where it was right and where we need to go back and iterate again. And we'll bring them another version and another version. And eventually, and in a really short period of time, we can build a really complicated app. I mean, months, not years, to build these apps. And they're tailored to our business.
Okay, interesting. I have so many takeaway points from that.
Because I talked so long.
No, but I really liked it, because you mentioned the right staffing is very key. You need to have the right expertise in-house, because they're the ones that are going to champion and actualize this entire design. But you mentioned something that's very important is design, like going through the different models, but first understanding what is the real problem here. The users usually tell you they want a solution. Maybe I want a digitized form, but digitized form is not the solution. You need to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what is the problem exactly? And let us experiment a few solutions and ideas, and then we present it to you and you see which one works best. So you are doing the entire back-end work that is needed in required moments of the solution to be implemented. But when you go back, I'm just thinking then all your solutions, all the digital solutions are all in-house. You are designing and developing all the solutions internally within the American Red Cross. Is that correct?
So we have both off-the-shelf software
Okay.
that runs our core business. So for example, biomedical manufacturing, there are a few providers of software that's used by blood banks worldwide.
Right.
We're not trying to go build that, right? But what we'll do is we'll take the data and we'll build an integration with that application so that the
Okay.
pertinent information is available for the staff at the blood drive.
Yeah.
Because the application that we purchase, the application that we use, maybe doesn't fill this niche use case here, but we can plug the data in, we can present it to the user in a way that makes sense for the job that they're doing without a bunch of extraneous information. We can put it in a mobile-friendly format because they're standing at a donor's bedside or they're roaming around or they're driving to a blood drive, and so we can present the information in a way that's most useful to them.
But then in that case, how does the financial situation work? Because if you've got the internal sustainability, of course, of apps being developed as well, there's software licenses and all of this. But even the off-the-shelf solutions, there's a cost implication to this.
Yep.
So how do you manage the financial situation in this? And have you, as the American Red Cross, supported other national societies with these solutions? Like, have you passed on solutions to other national societies?
Right. So to your first question around the financial piece, so each project that we undertake, we'll do some sort of return on investment calculation and estimation. Maybe high level, just get an idea. Do we think, is this a project that would save a couple $100,000 a year or millions? And we'll kind of, we keep a portfolio of projects, of concepts that we'll always be working on. So I'm working on concepts now for projects we might not start until 2024, just to be ready when we have developer capacity.
Okay.
And so we'll look for, are there financial savings? Most of our projects do have them. That moves them pretty far up the list in terms of priority, the bigger the savings. And then we'll look at other benefits, like can we improve the donor experience? What about the disaster shelter client experience? Can we meet their needs in a more timely manner? So there's no cost savings associated with that, but we're delivering the mission faster, more reliably. That's a big ROI for us.
Yeah.
And so we'll weigh those to figure out which projects are a priority for which business units,
Yeah.
and then kind of work on them in that priority order.
So you are open to having other national societies approach you, for instance,
You
to
bet.
scale your digital solutions into their national societies?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, our team has been focused so far very domestically on really working to build a culture of innovation at the American Red Cross. And
Right.
it's not to say it isn't already there. There are so many innovative people, but we're such a big organization. I think we have around 18,000 paid staff with hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and we're
Amazing.
spread over enormous geography. And so trying to figure out how do we connect people,
Yeah.
often digitally, right? Because we're so
Yes.
remote. And how do we get people all working toward innovating that next process or innovating that next change or figuring out what that next service offering should be?
Yeah.
And then do we have a role in that? And sometimes we don't. Sometimes our team might get a conversation started, but we might be able to refer them to another part of the organization where they could get that thing done better, faster, cheaper than what we might be able to do. Or we can't get to it for a couple years because we've got all these wonderful projects already lined up.
Yes. So then you're so passionate about this. Like
Oh,
I can see you love
I can talk about it
doing
all day.
what it is that you're doing.
I do.
But what inspired you? Because you were in the biomedical space and now you are in a digital solution space.
Yep.
And just from everything we've talked about, you look so passionate and you're definitely very happy with what you're doing.
Yep.
What is that one inspiration that got you where you are? And is it someone that you're also inspiring that you know you can directly mentor around you?
I think the thing that pushed me into this work and makes me so passionate is I'm just never content with the status quo.
Okay.
When I was managing teams and my teams were achieving 100% of their goal every month, I wanted 105. I wanted 110. If it was 24 months, I wanted 36. And when I look at our processes, I mean, when I joined the American Red Cross as paid staff back in 2001, my introduction was to read a stack of procedures this tall, of biomedical procedures that I really had no context around.
Right.
But it was a lot. And what what got me was how much we ask our staff to remember and to do. I mean, thousands of pages of procedures. So this work allows me to take those complex sets of procedures and all this training and reduce it. Because
Right.
I believe that a well-designed digital solution can replace a lot of that. It can reduce staff frustration.
Correct.
It can make their quality of life better. It can make them happier at work. It can make them more easily successful because they're less prone to error. If an app can step them through complex processes, they can't omit something or make a mistake. And then you have the other side of it where if they make a mistake, perhaps we end up discarding that blood product because we won't take any chances,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And from a very early age, my mom was a blood user. She almost died having my brother, and then again with my sister, and she used blood 2 times. And I used to sit with my parents when they were donating blood, and I got the idea from a very early age of how important this is.
Right.
So every product we can provide to a patient, it's life-saving, truly, and it's so impactful. But if we can do it more efficiently, if we can make it easier on staff, because they have a hard job. Our mobile blood drive staff have a hard job. They're traveling every day to blood drives, and I have tremendous respect for the work that they do. That makes it possible for us to distribute 5 million blood products a year
Yeah.
just out of the American Red Cross.
Yeah, very interesting. Really, very, very, very interesting. And I'm just trying to think, like, what is the one message that you'd want to send to people who are watching you here now, but like who are aspiring to be? Because I really like the fact that you're not technical, you're not the expert with the digital component, but you don't have to know it all, but you know how, and that's the key to leading as well. So just
Yeah.
the final thing, like, how would you inspire, and what is the one message you want to leave for everyone, especially in the digital solution space?
I think surrounding yourself with people who complement your strengths. So I meet and work with so many talented people, and we don't need more me's, right? One of me is plenty for most people. What we need is people who have all those other skills, those things I don't understand, I haven't studied, I'm not good at. A strong team is composed of all these people playing their parts. And so I have project managers on my team and software testers. I couldn't do their jobs.
Right.
They do their jobs. They do them really well, which is what helps us to be really good. And our developers, and my boss has a totally different skill set than I have. He's amazing at helping us envision not disparate projects, which is often where I'm focused and working, is on this project or that one, but roadmaps, large-scale transformations, multi-year plans. How do we package that information? How do we package that idea or that concept and really sell it to the business? And so it is about bringing together people who complement
Right.
what you can do, and then letting them do it. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't pretend to know how to do software testing. I trust my testers to just do it, and sometimes they do such an amazing job it drives our developers crazy. That's their role, right?
That
They're
is,
so
yes.
good at it.
Yeah.
So.
No, thank you so much. It's been
Thank
very,
you. It's
very
been fun.
insightful, and just listening to all your discussions around being not an expert to still being an expert, being a great leader, because a great leader leads, doesn't have to do it every single thing in the team,
Thank
and
you.
just acknowledging that as well, but also sharing with us your personal story on why you're so passionate about blood donations.
Thank you, Priyanka. It's been fun.
This was fun. Yes, this
Yeah,
is
I've
really
enjoyed it.
exciting. Yes, thanks.
Thank you.